Shout to Dan Strafford. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is From A to B, presented to you by Osmo.com. I'm Andrew. I have Ben with me. Today we're going to talk about the main slate of the NFL on Sunday. From a DFS perspective, specifically position by position, how do you feel about that, Ben?
Oh, it's all right. Happy Friday, as always.
Hey, thanks.
We're going to do a little college football at the end, which we always do. And right at the beginning here, did you have any thoughts about last night? God, Mike McCarthy's so bad. That's my only thought, honestly.
Yeah, I can't believe the Packers lost that game.
Yeah, it was
Aaron Rodgers is good. Devontae Adams is good. Aaron Jones is good. I didn't have enough Aaron Jones. I don't know. It didn't go great for me. I had, to be fair, the little bit of Aaron Jones I did play, I put him in the captain spot. So I actually had one lineup that until almost the very end was like my Seahawks defense to the winning lineup's Packers defense from winning, which was a 1-point difference. So thought there was an out there until your boy that you called last night, Ed Dixon, out of nowhere, does nothing for anyone except
he did. It was, I had some Ed Dixon, and then, of course, Jimmy Graham got hurt. Not that he was doing much, but that really crushed me. Showdown. Packers, they needed that game. That was a devastating loss for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter today about NFL people being excited that Aaron Rodgers is probably going to get a real coach finally.
Yeah, I mean, I just, but that showdown. I was glad that your boy Robert Tonkin wasn't on the winning lineup because that was just stupid. There was only a couple people who even used that guy, and half of them probably just didn't set a lineup, to be honest.
Right, they played like Geronimo Allison and shit.
Yeah, like Randall Cobb.
There was a winning line there for a while, like in the first half. There was a winning lineup with him, and it was it said you look at it, and it's like Robert Tonkin 0.0% owned because he was probably on 15 of 117,000.
Ridiculous. Yeah, it was like when that guy caught the touchdown, I was just like, that's not Jimmy Graham, and then I was like, is it Kendricks? I knew it wasn't Mercedes, and then they were just like, oh, and that it's not a name I've ever heard, obviously.
Yeah. Speaking of 15 out of 117,000, how many 6 of 6s? We're not going to get into golf, but this is some chaos with the cut, which I usually like this, but
you can reduce all my teams from the possibilities. Not going to be a good golf week, and then Nicholas Lindheim, who's not a great golfer, I used him a lot. I'm probably the heaviest on him on the entire site. I could safely say that. And
are you the only guy who played him in the 5-5-5?
Yeah, only person who would use him, and probably for good reason. It wasn't like he was playing well. So
yeah, I'm down to I have a couple. I'm 10th in the lotto right now with an actual 6 of 6, most likely, assuming Spawn holds on. But yeah, it's chaos out there. There is someone at my door. I don't know how to deal with that. Hey, why don't you start talking about quarterbacks?
I will. All right, let me bring it up. Yeah, we got back to a 10-game slate because there's more buys this week. And the super good game, we're not going to get it. On our Monday show, we'll absolutely talk Chiefs, Rams, no doubt about that. But as you go deal with that, I'll get into quarterbacks. I mean, Drew Brees, obviously, start with him. He's at home. He's in the dome. Eagles, they're a little banged up in the secondary. Darby's out. And we saw last week, that was one of the more disappointing games for me. The Bengals just could not stop them. So there's no reason to think that Brees, Michael Thomas, Kamara can and will get it going. He's probably the safest option. And then I'm just going to stick with Cam. I know last Thursday was super disappointing, but at the same time, he's still – the upside's there when he uses his legs. There's absolutely nothing, I think, that can really contain them from the Lions standpoint. Even though they're on the road, again, the game's indoors as it gets colder. In New York, snow's on the ground. So that helps them. And Cam's going to be involved no matter what. I know McCaffrey on the ground, is a threat, but at 6,200, he's another one that I'm definitely going to be going to. When we work down, it's not – honestly, I don't see that much unless you're really looking You can always go down for like a pure punt, like a Josh Rosen, something like that. But I kind of think that's unnecessary. If Andrew ever gets back to the show, we've both talked about that pricing is so flat with quarterbacks. There's just not a ton of reason. You're not saving that much, and the talent gap is somewhat severe. I mean, these guys in the mid to low sixes just have such a good matchup. I'm more apt to kind of just hang in there. Just looking up and down, a guy like Phillip Rivers is another one that comes to mind. He's at home. Broncos D, I like to pick on them when they're not at home. They're weaker against the run, so Melvin Gordon obviously is going to have more of a, I'd say, positive game script. We've seen Rivers a couple times this year. The common theme with him is he doesn't really get pressed to do much. So he's been throwing multiple touchdowns in every game, but at the same time, you want him to throw 40 or 50 times. Oh, look who decided to grace us with his presence.
Well, that was embarrassing.
Well, I'm just rattling off quarterbacks like there's no tomorrow.
I wish I could argue with you. That was literally the gas company. And I'm like,
did you pay the gas man?
Literally had to pay the gas man. I'm like, dude, I cannot talk right now. I'm on a work call. And I'm like, no, I mean, it's like a work call that like people are watching. And he's like, yeah, dude, I am here to like, I'm sorry, I have to collect because you haven't paid. Like, I have to shut the meter off if you don't pay right now. I thought I had set up an auto pay. Apparently did not. Yeah. That's really
Showdown's tough. As we say, Showdown can be brutal on our home. It's a tricky situation these days. But
so I literally had to write the guy a check right now. All right, sorry. Catch me up. Who's good at quarterback?
So I went through, I thought, the pretty obvious guys. Obviously Breeze up top and Cam for me, they just you look at the matchups / with Breeze, they're unstoppable and they're at home. Don't think there's a ton to really say there. I mentioned Phillip Rivers. He was the last guy I kind of got to, but it was more, we've seen time and time again with him, he's not pushed. And if they can lean on Melvin Gordon and they attack the Broncos via the run, I don't know. He's safe again, cash, sure. But I don't know about in tournaments. And then as we have our good people in chat, John just brought up thoughts on the Baltimore QB situation. I don't know exactly what to do. Do you have thoughts on that mess?
Yeah, so I think that, I imagine it's going to be Lamar Jackson. And he sort of, in a vacuum, projects well because he's so cheap. But it's also with the current Baltimore play distribution, which I don't think they will do as heavily with him, right? Like, I would think that they cut down his... I don't think they're going to let him... Flacco's passing 35, 36, 38 times a game. I don't think that they let Lamar Jackson do that. So I've changed the... I'm in the process of, in the projection update this afternoon, I will change the run-pass distribution a little bit. So it hurts the receiving weapons more than anything else. I'm not really interested in Lamar Jackson, but...
I don't... Lamar Jackson, the one thing about him, and I don't think that this is certainly not a probable outcome, there is a window where he gets loose, and he has rushing upside that's different than everybody else. I don't think that that's really going to work in the NFL, but he's in college. He could run for a couple 100 yards a game. Like, I'm not saying he's going to do that, obviously, but if they run him a lot, that's just a totally different animal. Kills the receivers. I wouldn't be stunned even if Flacco can't go. I think that you see some RG3. I really do. I don't know if they can really give just Lamar Jackson the keys and say go. That seems somewhat problematic to me, but that's one to monitor. Definitely me and Lofty on Sunday will certainly have more to say on that.
Yeah, I think for now you're assuming it's Lamar Jackson and it's just bad for everyone. And it makes the I forget who it makes the Cincinnati defense pop a little bit.
Okay. I see that, yeah. I was saying, the other thing I was saying while you were dealing with the gas man, we say this every week, QB is so flat that I'm not as incentivized to take a true punt because you're only saving $1,500. If Lamar Jackson was 4.7 and Drew Brees was 8,000, that would be different.
Oh, hey, Josh.
I figured this would probably just be easier to actually speak. So you're quiet to the public right now. Hi, public, by the way.
Our boy John Krolikowski is saying so.
I hear you fine.
You sound perfectly normal to me right now. John so-and-so, have you tried turning up your volume?
Yeah. How do I sound? I hope I sound...
You guys both sound perfectly fine. I'm going to tune into the YouTube show, and
Everyone's
I'll let you know.
Funny of you, Ben, because you just had to do a soliloquy for 2 minutes.
It was quite a monologue.
Yeah.
Well, you sound great, so I'm going to check the YouTube stream, and if it's not, I'll pop back in.
Hey, thanks, man. You sound great, too. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you. Enjoy, boys.
All right. What about you? I mean, I've kind of given my thoughts. I'm not getting too fancy at quarterback. I like the best guys available. I think I can save elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
I'm sorry. I'm out of sorts right now. This is
no, that's fine. I'm going off the chat. Like, I agree with, Michael just said, like, I think that Lamar Jackson has some maybe expanded packages and they keep it simple. I'd be somewhat stunned if he's just given a full complement of the offense. I don't know how effectively he can run that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't really see it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. I think that the big thing with Lamar Jackson is you're hoping for him to run. So I think that you're going to want him naked if you do play him. I don't really like him with someone like John Brown. I just don't see them being able to let him just launch the ball downfield. I think your premier option is Cam. I'm assuming you talked about him. He's expensive-ish, more expensive compared to all these other guys. But the Lions' pass defense is just wretched, and their run defense has gotten a little bit better. We've talked about that they traded for Damon Harrison, been pretty good. And then, I mean, the guys that pop in the optimals the most right now are Ryan Fitzpatrick and Eli Manning, who are facing one another and each other's horrible defenses. So I think that those are viable plays, certainly in tournaments. I don't know if I can go there in cash, but man, 5,200 for Eli Manning against this just god-awful Tampa defense is kind of attractive, If he's got a little bit of time to throw, you would think, like, all the guys he's throwing to are pretty good. Their problem has been the offensive line.
I mean, I'm not advocating that Eli's had a good year because he hasn't. But I'll say this. When I looked at his game log, I expected it to be worse than it was. Yeah. Like, at 5-2, he's paying that off more weeks than not, and this is at home against the Bucs. It's not the worst by any stretch.
And I don't see, like, the Giants have historically been, throughout the Eli Manning era, like, a much more pass-heavy team. So I don't see, even if they kill him, I don't think they're just going to pound the ball with Saquon Barkley all day. I think Saquon Barkley, we'll get to it in running back. I think he's maybe the best play on the board. But I don't think it's because they get up, I don't think it's your sort of classic running back scenario where they get up big and he, just gets 32 carries for 160 yards.
Do you have Dak thoughts? He's the same price as Eli. They have also a good matchup. They're in Atlanta, in the Dome. They need that game desperately. I think I lean Dak, actually, but I still like Eli.
I definitely don't lean Dak. But, I mean, it's like a 4-point difference in projection for them. Like maybe Cooper is a meaningful change to their offense, but I'm not comfortable really saying that. They just don't, he's so tied to Zeke in that situation. I'd just rather play Zeke.
Yeah, I guess that's a game where I'm more confident that the Cowboys are not going to be able to just control the game. I think for them to win that game, Dak has to play well. The Giants, even though that matchup is pristine,
Cowboys are not winning that game though. Which not that has anything to do with Dak's fantasy production.
But if they're not winning that game, then I don't worry about, like, the volume for Dak should be up there. And in those type of games, I feel like that's the thing I worry most about when I roster Dak. Not that I do that often, is that they just control the game and he's 16 for 20 for $180. I don't see that happening against the Falcons.
Okay.
I'm also, and not that you can't run Eli but Saquon's also probably my favorite play of the slate.
Yeah.
So
I I mean, it's not particularly close as far as projection, unless you're playing Thursday to Monday, where Todd Gurley is literally breaking the system. I have him projected for like 34 points. It's crazy.
That game. Yeah.
I remember earlier in the season being like, dude, Kamara's projecting for like 30 points. I've never seen that before. Gurley is projecting for 34 this week.
That showdown slate is going to be the craziest one of the year.
Mm-hmm. Should be fun. And they moved it back to LA and last minute, so there are tickets available. I was thinking about trying to go to it. That might be kind of fun, but I've never seen an NFL game in person before.
You should. Anybody else? We got Andrew Luck. No problem. He's another one.
Oh, yeah.
He's just good. I used him a ton last week. Couldn't get his damn guys right.
Well, that's the problem with him.
Yeah,
Who
it
do
is.
you pair him with?
Don't pair him with Ebron. Public service announcement. Like, Ebron did not play a ton of snaps last week. That was just ridiculously fortunate. So, quarterback is one of those where I know the couple guys that I'm going to make sure I get in. Other than that, I build around it. Like, if I land and I have just around 6,000 left, I will put Luck in there and not think twice. If I need a true punt, the guys kind of we just discussed, there's some options up and down it. Whereas some of these other positions, I'm making a priority to go and get some of these guys.
Okay. What do you make about Roethlisberger? Jacksonville's defense has been a little shady, and Roethlisberger is easier to I'm with you on the idea of luck, but like how that not only do you have to get luck right, but you also have to guess right on who you're throwing it to. Like, Roethlisberger's a little easier in that sense, at least.
Definitely. He's definitely tied to the finite amount of guys. They're pricing DraftKings algorithm. It looks like that they're still giving Jacksonville some major props. Steelers' weapons are depressed. It's the kind of thing, these are adding up quickly. Like, I had like 3 or 4 quarterbacks. Now we got 8. He's the kind of guy, if I don't have him, I won't be too worried. I think he's certainly in play. Most of these guys are in play, but on the road, I think his floor is a little lower than someone like Luck at home. So I would probably side with him if I had to choose one.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean,
I'm with you in a like, I like the idea of Luck better, but you kind of have to, like I was saying, you have to guess right twice when you're playing Luck. With Roethlisberger, it's a little bit easier, That's
true. I don't disagree with that. I kind of have them projected differently at this point.
Okay.
That's all.
AJ Bouye is going to play, by the way, for what that's worth. But Juju, like, we'll get to that in wide receiver. Juju, as always, is a fantastic play.
All right. You want to move to running backs?
Yeah.
So we got, this slate, there is no one over 9,000. I talked about that. I have an article on the site. Obviously, check that out. I have plays in there and talk a couple different themes of the week. But one of them was that there's no one to really, you're not paying for 9-8 Gurley, Kamara. There's none of those guys. So the top priced guys, Melvin Gordon, Saquon are right towards the top.
Yep. For me, it's Zeke and Saquon. Not really close. Like, those are your premium guys. I'd like to be able to pay up for them in cash. I think you probably can, unless, like, there are some really good wide receivers to go for, but it's certainly possible to play both Saquon and Zeke in a cash lineup. Saquon's projection is also kind of, if it weren't for the Gurley thing, it would be sort of absurd. He's at like 28.5. That's nuts.
Yeah, he had by far his most quiet game of the year. He had 100 total yards and only 5 targets. He didn't find the end zone. It's come like that. That's as bad as it's going to get for that guy. And now he's going home against Tampa's defense, who they cannot stop him. There's no chance.
Stop anyone when they had guys.
That's what I'm saying. That they were not a good defense to begin with. Quan Alexander was one of the bright spots. He's gone. The line is banged up.
Gerald McCoy's back, but like Saquon also is not really a guy that's like jamming through the line for 4 yards at a time. Like, he's not that style of back. They're trying to get him out into space, and he's amazing in space. And Tampa just has really terrible personnel. So, like the idea of him a lot.
Oh yeah,
I mean, obviously he's going to be stupid popular.
Incredibly popular, and we'll see, like everything. I'll see exactly what I'm going to have to do to get leverage, and it's just hard. I'm not making a big stand. Worst case scenario with him, I kind of cancel the field if I really can't devote the ownership. But I like the spot too much.
Yep.
What about Kamara? He's 8,200.
Not on the main slate though, right? Oh no, he is. He's in the 4 p.m. game. Just
yeah. I feel like he's going to take I'm not going to say a back seat, but I'm with you in terms of you've got Melvin Gordon at home against the Broncos, good matchup. Saquon's in one of the best spots of the year, and then you have Zeke. I think those three ownership-wise as well are going to maybe inch ahead of someone like Kamara. Kamara's at home against the Eagles. It's not a perfect matchup, but at the same time, he's 8,200. And I don't, it's still Kamara.
Yeah. Do you think he's that unpopular? I mean, the Eagles are really, really tough to run on. Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying.
Sorry, finish it because the other people out there don't necessarily know that we can read each other's minds.
No, it's true. It's someone like Kamara. I almost like that because with him, it's get in space, make the most of your touches. I worry more about Ingram with someone like the Eagles, where it's like this could actually play into Kamara's hands if they jam this middle and make it ineffective to establish a true ground game. Maybe that just adds to Kamara's target share, and that's really what you're looking for anyway with him.
Yeah, it's possible. I just don't know how, like, we've never, even last week, he was still 12 or 15% owned. I thought he was going to be, like, nothing.
I don't think he's going to be unpopular, but if he's in that teens again, as a straight, like, Saquon could be 2.5x his ownership.
Yep. I mean, Kamara, for me, is 4th among running backs, or 5th, actually. So Saquon and Zeke, obviously, pretty clear top spot. And then the next tier is Melvin Gordon and David Johnson, and Kamara's below that for me. David Johnson's back.
Yeah, of course he is, because last week was the first week on the Sunday show where I was just like, you know what? Not super. But yeah, David Johnson, he has Oakland's just a disgrace in all forms. Is he? Yeah, he's in play. He was never not in play, sadly. I just kind of jumped off. I don't care. I will go back to, not that I'm jamming him in, but Joe Mixon is going to be actually low owned, I would say. I will go back there. I know Baltimore is a solid unit, but with no AJ Green, last week, not that it was an anomaly, but it was such a ridiculous game script that you can't take much away from it. The game got out of hand. I don't see any way that happens. Baltimore may win the game, but Joe Mixon is going to get the volume. And if it stays close, he's going to get massive volume at 7,100 and low owned. I'll take some savings on some teams and roll the dice with him.
Okay. I'm not going to go there just because Baltimore is really tough to straight run the ball on. And I think despite the fact that there's no Kareem Hunt or Todd Gurley, I think there's a lot of options. There's a lot of guys I really like. Like what you're saying as far as and to be fair, this is just a philosophical difference for the two of us, where you're saying Joe Mixon at 7,100 in a weird matchup where he's probably going to be less owned. I'd rather go James Conner there.
Okay. No, I get that. He is too cheap. Again, that's one of the guys I was referencing. They're pricing him down, I think, because of Jacksonville, and that's not actually a scary matchup.
It's pretty scary. Jacksonville's a good defense. They're at home. Like it's not.
But
like
it's not what it was. Last year, it was like you're playing Jacksonville. You can't go there. Like
right.
I had pretty much omitted who they were playing.
Well, that in general almost is not really a thing anymore.
That's
because of the new rules.
No,
last year there were 3 or 4. You know, the Vikings you didn't want to play anyone against. Like there were other teams like that, and that's just not really a thing. There's specific skill sets, and this brings up a good point that some people in the chat were saying. Mark Ingram is really, really cheap, and then some pushback on Kamara being more of a perimeter-ish guy. I agree with the latter part of that. Like, yes, Kamara in space, obviously. Ingram is the guy that Philly, you cannot just run the ball on Philly up the middle. And that's what Ingram really does well. Yeah, he's cheap, but, I mean, he's crazy cheap. It's like $5K, right?
Yeah, but that was my whole point. Like, Ingram is the guy that I'm way lower on because of the matchup. I think that's their best asset is what his is as well. He's the guy who really could be affected, and I'm hoping that Kamara picks up some of that, is the beneficiary.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think the Ingram price, I guess my point is more the Ingram price tag is a bit of a trap, in my opinion. I would much rather, again, shout to the chat, double dip.
Yeah, chat is on. They're stealing our plays.
I know, sons of bitches. HTG stole my MVS take last night, and we both pulled bagels on him. So, I think he got
one.
Yeah, nice.
One.
Shout out, buddy. That was tough. But I would much rather play at that price tag. Go back, double dip on Dion Lewis.
Absolutely, Dion Lewis, another guy that made my article. He last week Henry vultured it twice, but that was Dion Lewis has taken over that backfield. And honestly, that was as bad a game script I think you're going to find with him. Like if they fall behind here in Indy, he's the guy in the passing game that he's always had the role. Right. So the carries, that's not the best because Derrick Henry can be an asset in the goal line. I don't see any reason to jump off him, especially now. He burnt a lot of people. So
he can pop playing a real quarterback, real offense this week, unlike last week.
Dust.
Buried that old people team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like Andrew Luck in tournaments, Dion Lewis is a really nice run back because the shootout potential is real. And for Andrew Luck to keep throwing the entire game, you're probably going to need Tennessee to score some points as well to keep up with them. So I like Dion in there with him. The guy and the situation that I think is the most fluid is the health of one Marvin Jones Jr. I think that actually is the biggest injury for the running back position that we're looking at because Theo Riddick is essentially the other wide receiver. If Jones is done, Tate's not there, Matt Stafford's still throwing 38 times, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Where's it going? And Jones didn't play again today. That I got a tweet about that 2 minutes before we went on and forgot about it because I'm tilted because life's still gas, man.
Mental.
But Theo Riddick at 4K, man, I think he could get 10 targets. It's Galladay and TJ Jones and I did a sort of test run. I haven't put it up on the site yet. I probably will later, but I did earlier a bit of a test run of if Marvin Jones is out, plug those projections in, and Riddick is popping pretty nice. Galladay obviously becomes the shit in that case, but I like Riddick quite a bit.
No, it's just the situation where the Lions are not going to be able, or at least I'll say this, I don't think that Carry-On is just going to control the game. Not that Carolina's defense is no juggernaut. We saw that last Thursday, but they're going to be, I think, behind. And even if not, Stafford is going to be throwing the ball. Galladay, we'll get to him in a second. They trust Theo Riddick. He could work out of the slot. He's obviously going to work out of the backfield. He's an asset, especially if Marvin Jones sits.
I think that's the big thing because, and Riddick, potentially there are going to be some people that say Carry-On Johnson, that matters. You know what I mean? I don't think that has anything to do with Theo Riddick because they're so short at wide receiver that they need him out there. Mm-hmm. Theo Riddick never really gets a ton of value from pounding the ball anyway. So
no, I think the bigger risk is and there's always a risk of it. Say Carry-On has 32 carries for 180 yards and they control the game.
Yeah.
I don't really think that that's something you can. Could it happen? Yeah, it could.
You think that's possible against the best team in the league, according to you, the Carolina Panthers?
Don't hate on the Panthers. They're recovering. They have a huge game with Seattle. Certainly for me, I will be taking interest in that as someone who doesn't want the Seahawks to make the playoffs. Anyway, no, I don't think Theo Riddick getting 2 carries, 4 carries, or 0 carries is not going to make that big of an impact. You're ultimately rostering him because you think he's going to become the de facto slot receiver.
Yeah. And I think that, some people in the chat are saying, I think there is a legitimate argument, and what you were saying about, Detroit would, I was making fun, but I think that they will try, in their ideal world, Carry-On Johnson carries 32 times, and they just kill the clock the whole game. And
that is, I think, what they should and want to do. It's just a matter of A, I don't think their defense can hold up, and B, realistically, will that be successful? Probably not, and Stafford will get throwing.
Yep. The one scary thing about Riddick a little bit is that, Kuechly, again, probably the greatest coverage linebacker ever to play, still playing very well. He's probably going to be the guy that gets a lot of Theo Riddick, but, whatever. If he gets 10 targets at 4K, who gives a shit?
Yeah, and I don't see that much else down here this week. Do you? I didn't have a ton of cheap. Like Dion Lewis and Riddick were guys that obviously I took a good look at. I didn't see a ton in the threes or anything.
No, I think Jalen Richard is an argument as always, but don't really care for it.
Yeah, he's becoming just blah. Yeah, he isn't play because he's a pass catching back and he's cheap. But Oakland is so anemic.
Yeah. You need him to really get in space and really break one for it to work. I'm just saying, there's a 10% chance of that happening. Do I think that it's really a great play? No, I certainly prefer Riddick. I certainly prefer Lewis. But I'd probably, before I went to Mark Ingram, I'd probably start being like, I'll take a shot on Jalen Richard. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
The guys that will get lost, though, and I'm not looking to go here necessarily, but like you were saying, especially Marvin Jones is most likely going to be ruled out, which means Theo Riddick is going to become most likely pretty big chalk, which means Kerryon Johnson at 5,800, that's just a weird dead price range. Same thing happened last week where there's a ton of really good plays that are really expensive, so you play two of those and then you dip to Dion Lewis. I actually think that's probably going to be the overwhelming strategy again this week. So someone like Kerryon Johnson probably going to get lost, right?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be too popular. And what I'll probably do if I build and I really determine that I'm loading up on Galladay, on Riddick, maybe that gives me some Stafford. I'll make a couple hedge lineups where I'm just I know it's a 10-game slate. This isn't showdown. But you can still say, you know what, I'm going to put one where Kerryon controls this game. And if that happens, at least I have an out. Whereas, my Lions stacks, which are Stafford, Riddick, Galladay, running it back with some Panthers, that's what I really think is going to happen. But I'm going to buy a little insurance with some Kerryon exposure.
Yep, I think that's a sharp play. You want it because the Lions. I guess what we're getting at is the Lions are good enough of a situation with how few mouths there are to feed, and they will get fed. That you want to have some exposure one way or another, and you can get over on both the Kerryon Johnson side and all the pass catchers.
Pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, or before we move on to wide receiver, because Chad is so on it today, would you mind being on it one more way by smashing that like button, maybe subscribing? If you haven't checked out awesemo.com, you can get a 7-day free trial with the promo code from A to B. Help us not get fired. Yeah.
You tell them. It's yeah. I mean, I think that's really all I got for running back. We'll see if people get hurt again. Come in Slack. We'll be updating. But receivers, oh God. I mean,
the number one guy overall is Kenny Galladay if Marvin Jones is out, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kenny Galladay, it's funny. I compare him to Dion Lewis only in this sense. Everybody saw Golden Tate got traded. Everyone was on Galladay and Tate, and Jones, and they were terrible. The next week, that was last week, I hung on, and Galladay got us 13 targets, and boom. Sometimes
Jones was awesome last week. I remember.
Well, he's playing.
No, good job.
Don't hate on this. Just run with it.
No, I went with I was all over.
Yeah, I mean, Galladay.
Galladay was awesome.
It's gonna be massive workload. I'll live with the target share he's gonna have at 5,800. It's as simple as that. I don't know how much I really need to even read into how effective he'll be. It's hard to fade that.
He's 100% going to pick up safety help on every play. So there will be kind of two guys in his area if Jones is out. But still, he's probably – I mean, no bullshit. We're looking at DeAndre Hopkins level 15 target kind of workload for Galladay, I think, if Jones is out, which he's probably going to be.
And it's Carolina. It's not a great secondary by any stretch. Going up top, I mean, we can always. I don't think there's much to say about Julio, Odell, Michael Thomas. These guys, they're obviously in play. I think all three of them are in good spots. I will be using
rank those three for me.
So if I didn't have any of their quarterbacks, because if I use Breeze, I'm obviously much more likely to use Michael Thomas. If I didn't have any of their quarterbacks, I have Julio as 1.
Interesting.
And then I would have Michael Thomas 2 and Odell 3.
Okay.
What about you?
I have Odell 1.
Okay.
And this is just in the projection model. And I think the big thing here is that Julio's sort of red zone work and his percent of the passing touchdowns has historically now been so terrible. And granted, it was 2 years of outlier performances. He's probably back. But he is showing up as sort of a significant third behind those two. Odell is number 1 by half a point over Michael Thomas. I would prefer to go with Michael Thomas in like a cash game setting, mainly because I'm probably going to have Eli and Saquon Barkley in cash. So I don't really want to go like Giants onslaught there. That's a little scary.
I have these three close enough where it's going to come down to things like that. Am I going to go Giants overload? Am I going to have Kamara, Michael Thomas, Breeze? Like, that Julio's the one guy as a standalone, they're all fine standalone, but Matt Ryan's not someone that's really on my radar too much. So yeah, the touchdowns can be an issue. He does have 2 straight, and I do think that's somewhat overblown. He's priced. It's not like you're getting a discount off that either. And I would say he has the toughest matchup of the 3. But Julio, I would, Cowboy. Still at home in the dome, we haven't seen the full. All 3 are consistent. I mean, look at the game logs; they're all really getting it done. So it's tough, but my gut is I'm still. I would put Julio first.
Okay, I think that's fair, and I think I hear what you're saying, and I think that from a tournament perspective, I think Julio becomes the preferred guy because I'll tell you, Odell and Michael Thomas projecting as the top guys that's not unique to my system.
No chance. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I think you might get a discount too.
Yeah.
Slight.
Thomas is the guy I would probably go to in cash games. I should have last week, and I didn't. And that cost me a lot because I was 1 point out in most double ups. He was the highest projected wide receiver last week, was a good value, was projecting in optimals, just didn't do it because I had other guys. But I think Thomas is someone you would like to be able to squeeze in cash games if you can.
I can tell you, it's Friday. I have not built my cash lineup. There's almost 100% chance that Saquon and Michael Thomas are the guys I pay up for in cash.
Yep.
That I don't, unless something changes, that's just what I'm going to do.
Yep. 100%. And then I will have a ton of Odell in tournaments. I think he's worth paying up. And not that he will certainly not be lost in tournaments. I think he could be 16, 18% owned still, but I would imagine Thomas is a little more popular. And then I like the Julio call. It's just, Julio projects lower too because Dallas likes to play slow. That is noted in the projections, but like you were saying earlier as an argument for Dak, like they might not be able to play slow because the Falcons should be able to hang some points on him.
And the Falcons are getting it together.
Yeah. And that also, we didn't mention him during running back, but that also, maybe an argument for Tevin Coleman, who's another guy who probably will get lost. He's kind of, what is he, like 50? He's another 58, 6K guy or something.
I was about to say, he's in the Kerryon Johnson bucket just from a standpoint of when you build, you're not really looking at that range. And I'm kind of interested in going a little flatter on some of my lineups where you take a bunch of those type of guys. You don't have any true punts. You don't have as many top flight guys. You can definitely do that this week.
Yep. All right, so that's your mega expensive guys. Next tier, sort of Keenan Allen's only 6,700. Granted, he's going to see Chris Harris, who's the best slot corner in the league. Hasn't been as good this year, but man, Chris Harris is nasty.
He is, but Keenan Allen is a guy that I still think a big games are coming. He's starting to get it together, and they just haven't had to really go there. And maybe, again, I've mentioned this a couple times already, Melvin Gordon has the better matchup on the Chargers. But I'll have some Keenan Allen here. He's sub 7K. Obviously, Rivers' preferred target. Chris Harris is good, but so is Keenan Allen. He is matchup proof in the sense he's not getting shut down by anyone.
No.
And the thing with you could speak more to this, but slot corners, even the best ones, it's not like the guys on the outside where it's just like, oh, they hold them to 0. Like,
oh yeah,
it's just a different.
It's the hardest job in the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you're a great slot corner, you can maybe contain, but if you're going against a top receiver, there's not much you can really do.
Yep, and that's why what like Xavier Rhodes does is really special. He kind of plays like a slot corner, but on the outside, and that's why you occasionally see him get just torched like the Marvin Jones on Thanksgiving last year thing, because he's a press guy, and that's more what slots do. Slot corners have to stay with their guy throughout the route on every single play, and your cover 3 corners, the real famous guys, the Jalen Ramseys, the Richard Shermans, like if they know the quarterback's not throwing towards them, like they can legitimately take the play off. A slot guy doesn't get to do that ever. So, yeah, Chris Harris is, I don't know, I think sort of like for degree of difficulty might be the best. Like if you take that into account, he might have been the best corner in the league over the last like 10 years. I guess Revis when he was on, but blah blah blah. Cool. Yeah, I don't mind Keenan Allen. What do you make of Tyler Boyd? Another like should have a big workload, market share. Baltimore worse in the slot.
So he's another one. Last week was just you can't glean that much from it because the game was just out of hand. People were wondering. Everyone was kind of with AJ Green being out. How much does he pick up? Can he handle the wide receiver 1? He's going to get more coverage. And the game was, he only got 4 targets. I'm more interested this week than I was last week. I used him in cash last week, but I was underweight in tournaments. I don't mind him. I wish he was a little cheaper. I do prefer, as Chad correctly pointed out, I do have a crush on Keenan. I love that guy. Don't think he gets the credit or the price that he should be. So I would lean there, but you could do worse than Boyd. I'm more of a mixing guy if I attack the Bengals, not looking to really go heavy on them because it's a tough matchup with Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't. As far as Boyd goes, I'd rather play, in that price range, I'd rather play Keenan Allen. And then while we're talking about man crushes, my guy down here is Juju Smith-Schuster. I will play quite a bit of him. He doesn't project so hot because Jacksonville is a tough matchup. And let's be honest, they're still a tough matchup. They're not what they used to be, but it's a tough matchup. But in the slot is definitely, they lost, what's his name? The guy who went to their slot corner, Colvin, who I think went to New Orleans and then got hurt, and then that's why New Orleans has just been getting carved up in the slot all year. I like Juju quite a bit.
The one thing I'll say about Jacksonville is it is still a tough matchup, but DraftKings is pricing them like it's a brutal matchup, and it's not that anymore.
Yep. Good point.
I'm more inclined. Spencer just pointed this out in the chat, and I do this most weeks with a certain team. It's going to be all or nothing. If I play the Steelers, I will probably have a Connor, one of the big receivers, and like Big Ben stack, and just really go heavy on them because it does kind of have an all or nothing feel where they could, they get after it and they hang a boatload, or I will kind of shy away and go elsewhere.
Okay.
I just do that with certain teams. The Steelers, the Chiefs are another one. Like you can really go. I know the Chiefs are in a different category just because of who they are, but you can stack up a lot of because it's concentrated. They don't mix it around like the Colts. Good luck trying to play. I'll go to T.Y. Hilton. That's who I want to talk about next anyway. He's my favorite guy, but it's hard to feel confident. They have so many mouths to feed. They get Mac involved. They got all these tight ends. Chester Rogers, like guys that you're not looking to play, but they do enough to make your plays kind of somewhat risky in terms of floor.
Yeah. I'm with you. I like T.Y. Hilton a lot. I almost exclusive. I don't think I see him. I will play him much as a one-off. I think it will almost exclusively be with Andrew Luck because I do like Luck in tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
But like a T.Y. Luck, Deion Lewis is a nice start to a tournament lineup, in my opinion. So, with you there. What about Corey Davis? Another guy in that game. He went nuts last week, and I think rightfully he got dinged a little bit in ownership because of this Stephon Gilmore thing, but he roasted him. And Indy doesn't have those dudes.
No, Corey Davis is, he was a high draft pick. Coming into his own, the targets are there. 10 in the last 2 games. He's had a couple. Here, Mariota's seems healthier, seems better. They're playing well. They're methodical, but him, Dion Lewis, I don't see much else there. But at 5,600, no problem. And you're right. Against we've talked a lot about the Colts defense. They do their part to keep the Colts in the game, but by no stretch should they really clamp down and stop Tennessee's offense.
Yep. That's a fun game. I mean, I think that's a fun game to be stacking in tournaments because it could be a little under the radar. Everybody's cheap. You can playing a bunch of dudes in that game does not preclude you from playing the primo running backs, which I would like to have exposure to.
No problem there. All right, I'm just looking down.
What do you make of your boy Christian Kirk against the disgusting Oakland trash pile of a? He's not a burner is the thing. He's not slow, but he's just kind of league average wide receiver speed. And burners destroy Oakland.
They don't have a burner, do they?
No, because Smokey Brown went to Baltimore.
Yeah, like Chad Brown and the gang. Kirk, the price, not that it's up there, but it's just enough where I have trouble because Rosen's fine. It's just he doesn't get enough targets, efficient targets, where he can really rack it up. He needs to find the end zone. You could do worse as a cheapie, I guess, but not overly into it. I might actually look to a guy who a couple of weeks ago was the Fed. He did nothing. I wouldn't mind rolling back to Cortland Sutton, who's completely off everybody's radar. Like, obviously, Demaryius Thomas is not walking through that door. Those targets.
Is he still gone?
Yeah, I think that trade was permanent.
Okay.
So, that's a guy. He's still a big target. Hireman, who emerged right after all that happened. We're not going to see that every game. Broncos should be behind. Chargers defense is solid, but as we've talked about, their corners are not beyond taking some bad stands. You could do worse as a deep flyer in GPPs.
Yeah, don't hate that. In that same game, I always am a Tyrell Williams fan. I just like big, fast guys. He's a big, fast guy, so I'll have a little bit. And Denver is easier to attack outside. Especially, okay. Don't mind a little Tyrell Williams. I think that's mostly it for me for wide receiver. I feel like there was one other dude I wanted to talk about, but
I don't. Chad did mention with Tampa Bay's guys, Adam Humphries could be viable if Godwin is out. Yeah, even Djax. The one guy, obviously, Mike Evans, who is the best of them. I'm just not. I can't. I know he'll be lower owned, but he's just shown too many times. The floor is actually, borderline zero for a guy at that. There's too many other secure guys. The Julios, the Odells. You're not paying that much more for people that their bad games are 12. Yeah, it's just a different animal.
You even got him once this year too. Like I
did.
Just disgustingly bad with Mike Evans because you were on him the 37-point week or whatever. I was all over him last week, and then last year I just played him every single week, and I don't think he ever scored more than 17 points.
And even in that game, I watched that game. He wasn't playing horrible, but he caught a wide open 80-yard touchdown.
Yep.
Like you take that away, and it's 16, and we're talking about him just being awful the entire year.
Yep. I'd rather go similar kind of dude. As far as just, hey, there's going to be a lot of workload, and he's not going to be as popular as the other expensive wide receivers. Nuke Hopkins, who was mentioned in the chat as well. Like, sure, real player. I don't hate the idea of Demaryius. Like, if they get him out there.
All the guys who got traded, it's somewhat of a roll of the dice of how many, where are they at? We don't know.
Right.
They're going to come to a point where they're at a buy low spot. Like if he's up to speed, he's definitely in play. We don't know though.
It's the NFL, which is a very high variance sport, and wide receiver, or not wide receiver, but like guys who got traded are in that sort of like week one kind of situation, right? Like week one is always a more fun time to play tournaments and less good of a time to play cash because we don't really know anything about it yet. And Demaryius Thomas is another guy who's like, he's just up in the air. So it will hurt his ownership, but you know, Demaryius Thomas is up there with Julio Jones for like biggest, fastest guy. Like he's badass. Just been in a really shitty situation since Peyton Manning died 2 years before he retired. So that's like 5 years of 5 years of bad QB play in Denver for him. So Deshaun Watson, like I don't think he's a great QB, but he'll make some
certainly
throws.
Better than what he had.
Yeah, especially for fantasy because he's at least going to try. All right, yeah, we're getting into this, running a little long. That's about it for wide receiver. You want to get to tight end? I mean, I don't, but
tight end is pretty easy for me. Zach Ertz just play Zach Ertz. I know he's the most expensive, but when you look at what this guy does, 6'6" is an underprice. I will make what?
Sure, but you've also like I'm going to give you a hard time here because we've talked about, hey, we want to play Saquon, we want to play Michael Thomas. How are you playing Zach Ertz in that situation?
It's not that Zach Ertz is not that much more than an average cost of a roster spot with a couple punts. Like if he was another 8K guy, I would say yeah, he's 6'6".
No, I'm with you there, but I think the way that you normally are able to get a couple mid $8,000 guys is because you're paying $3,500 at tight end. Absolutely. Tight end is one of the spots where tight end and defense are where most people are just like, oh, I'll just punt because I can load up on the skill positions. But we have talked about some of the games in particular, overall games, that if you stack up, you're not really breaking the bank. And you add that with, Deion Lewis, Riddick, some of those guys, you can get there. I haven't built permanently, but I have done enough to tell you can get Zach Ertz in without completely breaking the bank. Yeah, you're going to be sacrificing a little, and you're right. It's tough, but I look at him. He is just so much better than the guys below him. I want to get there as often as I can. Lamar Jackson, quick news bulletin, is all but confirmed for Sunday. He is active. Joe Flacco is doubtful. Lamar Jackson season. No, I'm with you, man. Like Zach Ertz, clearly, it's like 4 or 5 points better than any other tight end. I'm going to play Jordan Reed again.
Jordan Reed is now. Zach Ertz had 16 targets last week. My God. Jordan Reed 3,800. He said he's hurt. Both of his big toes are hurt. Apparently, that's something. I'm more apt to go if you want to get exposure to the Giants outside of the big guys. I will buy on Evan Ingram. He's a couple $100 more than someone like Jordan Reed. That most people are not going to have exposure to him because they're going to have Saquon and Odell, and he's just as live to get involved in that game against the Bucs.
I like it.
Yeah,
that's a good call. He's not projecting well just because there's just so many good players on the Giants from a skill position perspective that he's not getting like a crazy workload. But no, that's a really good call on Ingram. 4,100.
Yeah. And the targets are slowly creeping to a nice level. Hasn't been crushing it, but at the same time, that's going to keep his he falls in the end zone against San Francisco. You were talking about Ingram being one of the more popular tight ends this week. I don't think that's the case here. And even though it's a weak position, another way to save, I could see myself using Ertz and Ricky Seals-Jones.
Right. I think that's the way that you do it is to play Ertz, you're sacrificing
a wide receiver
or a wide receiver. Yeah.
Yep. And I will take Ertz as a 6'6" wide receiver running back this week. No problem.
Oh yeah. That's the same argument, years ago when Gronk would be 7K and Julio and Antonio Brown were 9,300. It's just play Gronk as one of your expensive wide receivers because he was as good as them back then. He's dead. Yeah, Ricardo Sealjohn, man.
My man.
Got to play some. I played a shitload of him last week, and it was okay. But he was like 2% owned last week. It was nice.
Yeah. No, he's in play. He's got good hands. Good matchup, obviously, against Oakland. And he's cheap. You know, that's another one of the guys you can use him, and he doesn't need to get it done. He just doesn't need to kill you, and then it opens it up for some of those other places.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the other side of the ball in that game, Jared Cook, 3,900. It's not crazy. He's the second best sort of value projection. It's really like Jordan Reed and Jared Cook are your good values, and then Ertz is the third best value, and he's basically a break even play. But
see, I have Ingram over guys like Cook and Jordan Reed.
No, I think you make a good argument for that. I'm just saying, like, if you look at sort of like what their workload is projected to be, Ingram comes in a little bit, he's a little bit behind those guys, but I mean, at tight end, when we're talking really cheap dudes, that's like a 2-point difference. So I'm with you that Ingram has the like crazy touchdown upside, like the big playability. Ingram ran a 4.4. Like, he is not a tight end. He's a big wide receiver. He ran a 4.4. He's only 6'3". He cannot block. Like, he is not your typical, if they're going well and they're pounding the rock kind of thing, he's going to stay in to block. That's never going to be Evan Ingram. He is a receiving threat. That is all he's able to do, but he's really good at it. So I think Evan Ingram also really kills Sterling Shepard for what it's worth. I don't think he's going to be on anyone's radar, but certainly less into him.
Yeah.
Into Shepard, who's normally a guy I take a few flyers on. So yeah, Ingram and Ricky Seals-Jones, I think, are the fun.
All right, defense. Anything for your defense? I mean, we don't have a defense island. Last couple weeks, it's been like 3,000, and then there's one team that's like 4K. This is just a normal distribution in terms of salary.
Yeah, I think the one that really stood out to me was the Steelers at first, just because you get the Blort potential. And they're only 2,900. There's cheap ones too, but sorry, I'll start it off there. Go nuts. You hate that play.
No, I don't hate it. I just prefer the Cardinals, and they're right there. Cardinals get pressure. They're at home. Oakland is terrible.
Yeah, but Derek Carr is punching over his head as far as he's like helping us out more than he should. You know what I mean? He's not really a turnover-prone guy. He doesn't take big shots. Like, I don't know. I think he's gotten sort of unlucky as far as turnovers go this year.
I know that it is about turnovers, but Oakland's offense is so anemic that it kind of does raise the floor in the sense that I don't see many ways where they're putting up a ton of points. But yeah, I get that's true. I mean, he's not the kind of guy Carr's not going out and throwing 6 picks because he's not slinging it around. He's not making tough passes. Whereas
I get it. Like, it's almost a cash versus tournaments argument. I could certainly be convinced that Arizona is a better play in cash than the Steelers. In cash, I will probably try to punt. We'll get there. There's some really cheap defenses you can play. I just think the likelihood of the 22-point defensive game is much, much higher for the Steelers. Because they do crazy shit on defense, and B, they get to face Blake Bortles, who, maybe he blorts.
I'm going to give you one more kind of in the similar range. What about Washington at home? Against Deshaun Watson, who's certainly turnover prone. Mm-hmm. Redskins defense has been honestly disappointing to me. I thought they would cause Matt Ryan problems. They have not. They get pressure, though. And Deshaun Watson, it's Deshaun Watson. As good as he is, he makes a lot of mistakes.
I like that call. Yeah, I mean, Washington. Yeah, exactly. Washington gets pressure. Houston's offensive line is terrible. Deshaun Watson is mistake prone. Yeah. I also like the Houston offense. But absolutely, again, that's a high variance outcome. Yeah, not terrible. What do you think about Houston in that same game against Alex Smith?
I kind of see the situation you were just talking about, cash versus GPP. They definitely have a higher floor. Alex Smith is not turning the ball over 5 times.
Yep. Alex Smith and David Carr are almost sort of similar.
Yeah. The line
David
is
Carr wishes he could be Alex Smith.
Yeah, he's a poor man. That's a sad statement, but yeah, Houston could torch. The Redskins line is broken. They're all hurt. So it's the kind of game you're banging on 7 sacks, not 3 picks.
Yep.
I got one last one, and chat, take this one very lightly. But if we're talking about high variance situations, 2,200 Jaguars defense. I mean,
that's too much for me.
Really? It's the Jags defense, and I still, just on name alone, I know they're not as what they were, and I know they've been playing bad, but at home, they played. Big Ben got dusted by them, and then
in Pittsburgh too.
2,200. I mean, it's just a pure price point. They're a good enough defense for me. I'll take them at home for that price against anyone. Not saying anything besides tournaments. It's not even my preferred tournament play, but I think there's major upside there regardless.
Okay. I do think in cash we're all now going to play Cincinnati against Lamar Jackson. I think that's what you end up doing. They're 2,400. Yeah, it's on the road, but I think you got to do it with a bunch of primo dudes to pay up for. You got a chance. I think they'll be popular enough that it's like whatever.
I got to
what?
No, I was just gonna say I have to redeem my last week. The Jets defense got me -3, so the bar is low to say the least. It's time to bounce back on the defense front.
Matt Barkley's good, man.
Sort of. He looked good.
I mean, wasn't he good for a couple of games for the Bears that one year?
I
think he legitimately was.
Him and Jimmy Clausen have melded into my brain as the same person.
Even I know that Jimmy Clausen's Notre Dame and Matt Barkley's USC.
Oh, yeah. In college, they were both things, but...
Terrible?
No, they were good in college.
No.
I mean, dude.
Certainly didn't pay attention to them. But has there ever been a Notre Dame quarterback that was any good in the NFL? Because all I remember is, Joe Montana went to Notre Dame, didn't he? Son of a bitch.
What I was going to say. I was going to say Brady Quinn first, but
yeah. Well, since I've been old enough to know what's going on, I remember first was the Drew Bledsoe, Rick Mirer draft, and I was, I'm from an Irish Catholic family. It was like, it would be fun. I'm a Patriots fan. It's like we should draft. I'm 8 years old or 9 years old or whatever. We should draft Rick Mirer. That'd be awesome. Luckily, they drafted Drew Bledsoe, and Brady Quinn, Jimmy Clausen. They're all fucking trash, man. Deshaun Kaiser, he's the worst quarterback currently in the NFL, right? Now that, rest in peace, Nathan Peterman.
Poor Nathan Peterman. Well, we'll see what your Fighting Irish are made of tomorrow.
I do not give.
Huge game. I can't. At all. I'm not a Notre Dame guy, but really dislike them. Anyway, last thoughts on NFL. You got anything else?
Saints, maybe.
I saw chat mention them. I get that. For me, I can tell you right now, I'm probably not going to get there just because I don't make 150 lineups. If I did, I would have a sliver. I get that play.
Okay. I think it's not a bad play. It's $2,000. Yeah. Bluffy's not listening at this point. Carson Wentz sucks, man. He played way over his head last year. It's not good. It's not a good player.
No respect. No respect.
Listen, he converted 89% of third downs or something stupid like that last year.
I like Carson Wentz.
And he regressed because he's not that good.
I know they have a brutal stretch. I don't think the Eagles are as cooked as everyone else says, though.
Yeah. It's possible that 8-8 wins the NFC East.
That's part of the reason. It's not even because I think they're that good. It's just Washington and Dallas are confirmed not good.
But those are your outs. Their schedule in and of itself, there's kind of no way that they get to 9 wins. I remember I think it was Simmons and Sal were talking about it on their podcast. They just listed off the next 6 games of them. It's they're 4-5 and they have to play this. It's they're dead. But whatever. We'll see what happens. There is, speaking of Notre Dame, there's college tomorrow. Are they on the slate?
They are. They have a huge game with Syracuse in Yankee Stadium.
Yankee Stadium?
Mm-hmm.
The Bronx, New York?
In the Bronx, right next to where I am right now.
Isn't it?
It is snowy. This is all true, all confirmed. So we'll see. I'm going to rattle off some plays and then we'll get on out of here. College slate, it doesn't have that, like, we had Bedlam and things like that last week where there's 80 over under. There's not that much of that on this slate. You got Texas Tech, Kansas State's pretty good. West Virginia, Oklahoma State's pretty good. Syracuse, Notre Dame, even though it's a huge game, that's a decent one. Other than that, I don't see that much. Michigan State, Nebraska is going to be a grind. I heard there's going to be big wins in Lincoln. Keep an eye on that. I was kind of interested in Adrian Martinez, but that's that could really affect it. So we'll keep an eye there. Guy I wanted to talk about, though, speaking, you're talking about Demaryius Thomas before, his alma mater, you boys, Georgia Tech is on the slate. They don't throw, the non-throwing team.
Yeah, I was going to see if I could guess where Demaryius Thomas went to school, and Georgia Tech certainly would have been last among my picks.
Of all the schools in the country.
Like premier wide receiver going to the team, playing for the team that doesn't throw the ball, that would have
had him, Calvin Johnson. It's absurd. They always have like a all-world wide receiver.
Weird. I guess that makes it easier to run the ball. Certainly does in the NFL.
It does, and they get more stats than you think because they have 3 catches for $150 every game. Nowadays,
isn't that like a 4K wide receiver in college football DFS?
Yeah, in college football, gotta find what you can get with this. Anyway, they've been kind of rotating. They've had a shitty year. They've been rotating quarterbacks. They had Oliver in there. The senior, Taquan Marshall, came back last week, and he was good. Really looked good. I don't see any reason why they would switch at this point. So he had 24 carries, 90 for 2 last week. He's at home against Virginia, who's a decent team, and they did slow Duke, who does not run a triple option, but they have a mobile. They have the future Giants quarterback. You heard it here first, Daniel Jones. But I think Marshall's a pretty solid spot at 7,200 tomorrow. Doesn't break the bank, and you're still getting a guy who I would venture to say he rushes the ball 30 times. And obviously he's going to be responsible for their offense. Looking around, someone like Texas Tech, check with me tomorrow. Their quarterback situation is a mess. Bowman has a collapsed lung. It's just confusing. I don't think he's going to play, but he might. And if he does, we would want to know that. You can look to those receivers. And then the one other team I just wanted to mention is Michigan. They're a huge favorite at home. They're going to just dismantle, do not play anyone from Indiana. But if you want, I think you can actually do one of 2 things. So Kerryon Higdon, who's their all-world tailback, he's 7,700. He's not going to be in there for long, but he's going to get his. I don't even mind going there. Or you can just say, you know what, I'm going to play Chris Evans, who's the backup. He's 5,100. He's also going to get his. Like, they're just rolling right now. I think they're playing as good as everyone outside, Clemson and Alabama.
Kerryon Higbee is a made-up name. That's great. It sounds like like if you ever play Madden and you go forward and like the players coming out in the draft the next year that are like created from
Higdon,
the database, and you have like Joe Rogers Cromartie or something. It's like wow, this is not a real person's name. This is clearly from smash 2 things together. Kerryon Higbee totally sounds like that. I don't know any Carry-ons and I don't know any Higbees.
That's not his name. It's Kerryon Higdon, but the point still stands.
Yeah, I prefer Kerryon Higbee, who is probably going to be a first-round linebacker pick in my next franchise mode of Madden.
Okay, he's an actual creative player. Other than that, last team, Missouri, Tennessee. I think that's the sneaky game on the slate. Tennessee's playing a little better. They're in Neyland. That helps. Their weapons are not expensive. Part of that reason is because they're not good. But Missouri's defense isn't anything special. You could look to someone like Jennings on the outside. I don't mind that he was uneventful against Kentucky, but before that he had been playing pretty well. He's only 4,700. So like every week, what do I say? I'm going to pick a couple guys, build around them, see where I'm at. We don't have Hollywood Brown on the slate, which is a killer because that's my man. We do have Chuba Hubbard is back though.
Oh hell yeah.
Don't know if you can go there. we got to see what's up with Justice Hill. I don't know how they divvy up the carries. If we get word though that he's taking it at 4,900, you should play him. He is awesome, but that's only if Justice Hill is out.
Okay, I like that. Do you want to troll Dan Stafford with his University of New Jersey going into Penn State? Is that Happy Valley?
That is Happy Valley, yes. Look at that. They're not on the slate.
No, but obviously. 28-point underdogs. Rutgers sucks, man.
That's more of an indictment on how Penn State's not great this year. They're only 28-point underdog.
Yeah, but it's a 50 over-under.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the team total last week for Rutgers was 3.5.
Really?
And then they broke an 80-yard touchdown against Michigan. We got Alabama. They played.
Oh man, that's so
yeah,
fun.
something like that. That's what I heard at least. Alabama's got the Citadel this week, who is not a Division I school, so they're 51.5-point favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll probably be up 50-0 at halftime, and then the game will end 50-0. Alabama doesn't run it up.
Right. They pull to after 2 quarters, right?
I'm stunned. I mean, this has been a big discussion. I can't believe that he's playing. Stunned.
Oh, really? Is that bad?
I mean, they're not a Division I school. Alabama could easily win this game with 10 guys. There's no doubt in my mind. Like,
really?
The Citadel's a second, they don't play Division I schools. They're an option team. There's no chance, obviously. Not that they could win. It's a bye week for Alabama. I don't know why they're not taking the rest.
Is the Citadel a military school?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, that's funny. I would be interested. I mean, they practice 3 times a week, right? Like, you would think
The
that.
Citadel?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
You would think that 11 of them could beat 10.
I mean, maybe that's off base.
Alabamians?
Alabama's 3rd, 4th, 5th string players are obviously still good players. Like, you can't be on that team. But
yeah, but if there's only 10 of them.
Against a triple option, that would be interesting. I know that would be a reverse question. I think they would just kill him now. Anywho, that's not important. What is important, though, is if you are playing college football, stop on by our Slack. You can try it out for free. Sign up. Use our promo code. Talk to me tomorrow. And we'll make some lineups because I will be playing. I just got back from Connecticut to register.
Nice, dude. Karl Marx, our bro, with the bomb. Marvin Jones confirmed out. So I will put that update into our projections. Again, you should sign up for awesemo.com with promo code from A to B. If you haven't yet, check out the projections. Theo Riddick and Kenny Golladay is going to be just lock him up in cash. He might be 40% owned in tournaments. If he gets double teamed, it's a little bit interesting. For the fade, because I think he will be like 40% owned now.
No doubt.
Cool. All right. Anything else from you?
No. As always, appreciate everybody watching, and hope to see you in Slack. Good luck this week, and we will see you next week for a Monday with an awesome showdown ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Gonna check out one last thing. We'll look at for golf, Cut Sweats. Our boy Nelson Adcock with the cutsweats.com quality website. We are at about 2% 6 of 6 in most tournaments.
I don't have to look.
Kind of hoped it was going to get worse than that. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of hoping for like 0.5%, which was live. We'll have to see who got through. But I'm going to go check that out now. And everyone, have a nice afternoon.